Far beyond the known galaxies, in a quiet stretch of space where even light moved slowly, a fortress floated. It was not a small station or a simple planet base. It was massive, thousands of kilometers wide, bristling with towers, antennas, and weapon systems that glowed with strange energy. To anyone who looked at it, the fortress seemed untouchable, impossible to approach. For centuries, this fortress had been the pride of the Zolari, the most advanced and proud alien race in this sector of space. No ship had ever returned from an attempt to reach it. Some spoke of fleets vanishing into the void. Others whispered of strange energy storms that disintegrated anything that dared to get too close. The Zolari were confident. They had designed the fortress to be unreachable, invincible, and eternal. Yet far away from this imposing structure, humans were preparing in silence. The human fleet was modest compared to the vast alien armadas that had failed before. Their ships were smaller, their weapons seemingly simpler, and their technology less flashy. But humans had something the galaxy often overlooked: imagination. Where others relied on raw power, humans relied on ideas. Where others followed routines, humans could change plans in a moment. And in this, they were dangerous. Commander Aaron Voss stood on the bridge of the battleship Resolute. His hands rested lightly on the control console, but his eyes scanned the holographic display of the star system ahead. Stars, asteroids, and dark energy clouds filled the view, but at the center was the prize, the Zolari fortress. It was enormous, glowing faintly with energy shields that stretched like a dome over its entire surface. "No one has ever reached it," whispered Lieutenant Mira Tal, standing beside him. Her voice carried awe, but also a hint of fear. "They say entire fleets have tried, and failed." Aaron did not answer immediately.
He had heard the stories too.
Every species in the galaxy spoke of the fortress with a mixture of fear and respect. But stories were not facts. Fear was not strategy, and humans were not afraid. "They failed because they tried the same way every time," Aaron said finally. "They followed the rules of the fortress. We don't need to follow their rules. We need to find a way they never imagined." Mira nodded slowly. "But even with your new designs, even with all our tactics, how can we be sure we won't be destroyed like them?" Aaron smiled faintly, almost a smile of challenge. "We can't, but if we don't try, we'll never know. And humans, we never stop trying." The crew of the Resolute had trained for this mission for years. They had studied the failures of past fleets, learning from fragments of data recovered by scavengers and explorers. Every failed attempt had a pattern: rigid strategy, overconfidence, and blind adherence to technology without imagination. Humans had none of these weaknesses. They adapted, they improvised, and they learned faster than almost any other species. The fleet moved like shadows through a distant wormhole, hidden from the sensors of the fortress. Small scout ships tested the space around it, carefully scanning for traps. Automated defense drones patrolled the area, but the humans were ready. They had prepared electronic signals to confuse the drones, causing them to misidentify human ships as harmless asteroids. Hours passed, and the fortress seemed unaware of their approach. Yet Aaron knew that one mistake, one miscalculation, could destroy them all. "Keep calm, keep focused," he reminded the bridge crew. "The moment we show fear, the fortress will sense it." For the humans, this mission was more than just a battle. It was a test of human ingenuity, courage, and determination. Every member of the crew understood that the galaxy believed them weak. Many species considered humans primitive, unpredictable, and fragile. That belief made the humans even more dangerous. The first scouts reached the outer layer of the fortress. The energy shields shimmered, glowing brighter as if aware of the approaching ships. The scanners detected multiple layers of defense: particle cannons, plasma turrets, and a strange energy field that bent light in impossible ways. Every system was designed to destroy intruders long before they could reach the walls. "Scanning complete," reported Ensign Keir, a young human technician. "The outer shields are stable, but there's a faint energy pattern that repeats every 67 seconds. It could be a small gap, temporary but consistent." Aaron leaned closer to the holographic display. He could see the timing, the brief moments when the fortress's defenses momentarily lowered. "That's all we need," he said. "We don't have to overpower them. We only have to slip through just for a moment." Mira raised an eyebrow. "That's it? Just a moment?" Aaron's eyes gleamed with determination. "A moment is enough. Once we're inside, we can use our speed and agility." The fortress has never faced humans in real combat. They don't know how we fight. As the human fleet closed in, the alien fortress remained silent, its energy shields glowing in a quiet, almost arrogant confidence. The Zilari, deep within the fortress, monitored distant star systems, oblivious to the tiny human ships moving like shadows in the void. They had never imagined a species capable of such unconventional thinking. The human fleet split into smaller groups, approaching the fortress from different angles. Scout ships darted in and out, drawing attention and confusing the automated defenses. The larger battleship, Resolute, stayed hidden behind an asteroid belt, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Inside the fortress, alarms remained silent. Inside the human ships, hearts raced, not from fear but from the thrill of the impossible. Humans were about to do what every other species had failed to do. They were about to reach the unreachable. Aaron activated the ship's advanced cloaking system, designed specifically for this mission. The Resolute became almost invisible, blending into the dark space around it. The crew held their breath as the ship moved closer, timing every second with precision. Finally, the moment came. The faint gap in the fortress's energy shields appeared, just as Ensign Kier had predicted. Aaron gave the order. Now. The fleet surged forward, slipping through the gap. For a brief instant, the fortress's shields could not touch them. The human ships moved with a combination of speed, coordination, and daring that no algorithm could predict. Inside the fortress's perimeter, human scanners detected the alien defenses adapting, but too slowly. The humans had already positioned themselves in blind spots, moving like shadows through a deadly maze of energy fields and automated turrets. Aaron's voice was calm, almost soothing, over the bridge intercom. Remember, we adapt, watch their movements, learn from them, and above all, trust each other. The human fleet had reached the first stage of the impossible mission. They were inside the fortress's outer defenses, alive, focused, and ready. And while the Zilari had built their fortress to be untouchable, they had not accounted for one thing. Humans never stopped trying, and humans never fought like anyone else. As the fleet navigated deeper into the fortress's space, Aaron allowed himself a small smile. This was only the beginning. The galaxy thought humans weak. The galaxy thought humans predictable. Soon they would learn that humans were something else entirely. Clever, daring, and unstoppable. In the distance, the fortress shimmered with energy, unaware that a species it had dismissed as weak was already moving inside, like a silent storm. And in that moment, humanity proved what it had always known. When faced with the impossible, humans did not give up. Humans adapted. Humans survived. Humans reached the unreachable. The human fleet moved silently through the outer reaches of the Zilari fortress's perimeter. The stars were cold and distant, casting faint light on the massive structures of the fortress. From a distance, it looked almost peaceful, like a giant sculpture floating in space. But the humans knew better. Inside, hidden energy fields and weapon systems waited for intruders. Commander Aaron Voss stood on the bridge of the Resolute, watching the fleet with keen eyes. Every ship was in perfect formation, yet ready to separate and act independently. Stay sharp, he ordered. They won't expect us. But if they detect even a hint of movement, we must be ready for anything. Lieutenant Miratal's fingers danced across the console, monitoring the fortress's outer sensors. Commander, I'm reading unusual energy activity ahead, she said. It looks like automated defenses adjusting their patterns. They're reacting slower than expected, but they're noticing something. Aaron's eyes narrowed. Good, let them notice. Let them prepare. That gives us information we can use. Everyone, remember, we adapt. That's our strength. The fleet advanced cautiously, small scout ships darting forward to test the fortress's defenses. Each ship carried sensors designed to measure the strength and timing of the alien weapons. The scouts moved quickly, weaving between turrets and energy fields, sending continuous updates to the Resolute. Suddenly, a pulse of energy shot across space, striking one of the scout ships. Sparks flew across its hull as the ship rocked violently. The crew held on, stabilizing the vessel with quick maneuvers. Report, Aaron barked. Minor damage, Commander, the pilot replied. They're strong, but not perfect. I can still maneuver through the gaps, Aaron nodded. Exactly. Weaknesses always exist. Find them. Exploit them. The humans' approach was unlike anything the Zilari had faced. Other species attacked with force. expecting weapons to succeed where strategy failed. Humans, however, moved with careful observation and calculated risk. They tested, retreated, studied, and tried again. Each action was a puzzle, each reaction a lesson. From inside the fortress, the Zalari commanders grew uneasy. "Sensors show a fleet, small but persistent," one of them said. "Why do they move so differently? Why do they adapt so quickly?" Another Zalari shook its head. "They are primitive. They should not be here. They should have failed centuries ago. Yet they move like shadows. They confuse our systems. We cannot predict them." The humans, aware of being detected, used the situation to their advantage. The scout ships feigned retreat, drawing alien turrets into misfires. The turrets aimed where the humans had been, missing by meters, wasting precious energy cycles. Then, with swift precision, the fleet struck back, targeting exposed weapon nodes and weak points. The first real skirmish had begun. Bright pulses of energy flashed across space, illuminating the fortress in brief bursts of color. The humans avoided direct confrontation, instead striking where the fortress's defenses were weakest. Each strike was precise, each movement calculated. Lieutenant Miratal smiled faintly. "They're responding slower than expected. Our tactics. It's working." Aaron didn't smile. He remained focused, scanning the fortress's patterns. "It's working because we adapt faster than they do. Remember that. Keep analyzing, keep adjusting. Humans survive because we change when others cannot." The Zalari grew frustrated. Automated turrets spun rapidly, firing at positions that were no longer occupied. Energy barriers pulsed unpredictably, trying to intercept the human fleet, but the humans had already anticipated the changes. One by one, they slipped through the outer defenses like water flowing through cracks in a dam. On the bridge of the Resolute, sensors picked up a significant anomaly. "Commander, there's a central energy conduit controlling the outer turrets," reported Ensign Keir. "If we disrupt it, we can temporarily disable a large portion of the defenses." Aaron's eyes lit up. "Do it, but carefully. Minimal energy. We don't want to alert them to our full strength yet. Just enough to create openings." The human engineers worked swiftly, sending precise electronic pulses to interfere with the alien conduit. Sparks of energy danced across the conduit's surface as it overloaded. Turrets went offline for several seconds, enough for the fleet to slip past and position themselves closer to the fortress. The Zalari were astonished. "How are they doing this?" one commander exclaimed. "No species has ever manipulated our system so efficiently." "They are human," another replied. "They are different. Too clever, too daring, too unpredictable." Inside the fortress, tension grew. Automated systems continued to fire, but the humans had already adapted to their patterns. Small scout ships darted in and out, gathering critical data and striking isolated points. Each successful maneuver gave the humans more confidence, while the fortress's defenders grew increasingly anxious. As the humans advanced, they discovered something unexpected. The fortress had internal pathways and chambers never documented in alien records. These secret passages allowed humans to bypass heavily armed zones. Commander Aaron realized that the fortress's builders had assumed all species would think linearly, attacking the obvious paths. Humans, however, did not think linearly. "Open a map of the interior pathways," Aaron ordered. "We are not attacking the front. We are finding the path they never imagined anyone would take." The crew worked tirelessly, connecting sensor data from the scouts to create a real-time map of the fortress interior. Tiny human ships threaded through corridors, dodging energy traps, avoiding detection, and sending back crucial information. Hours passed. The humans learned the fortress's rhythms, the timing of shields, the intervals of automated patrols, the blind spots in the energy grids. With each observation, they adapted, improving their approach, moving closer to the heart of the fortress. Then, a sudden warning blared across the bridge of the Resolute. "Commander, large energy cannon activating. It's targeting the fleet." Aaron's eyes narrowed. "Predictable. They panic when they see resistance. Prepare evasive maneuvers. Use the gaps we discovered earlier." The fleet moved with perfect coordination. Ships weaved between the blasts, timing their movements to avoid destruction. Smaller crafts drew fire away from the Resolute, allowing it to advance steadily. Despite the overwhelming power of the alien weapon, human ingenuity and adaptability kept them safe. Miratal's voice was calm, but intense. "Commander, the cannon is overheating. Another strike like this and it will shut down temporarily." "Good," Aaron said. "Prepare a synchronized counterattack. Target the power grid controlling the cannon.
Minimal force.
Enough to disable it without alerting the fortress to our full strength." The humans executed the plan flawlessly. Energy pulses disrupted the cannon, sending it offline. The fortress seemed momentarily stunned, unable to adjust quickly enough. The human fleet pressed forward, seizing the advantage. From inside the fortress, the Zalari watched in disbelief. "They are too fast, too smart. They anticipate our every move. No other species has ever done this." Aaron knew that the first encounter had been successful. They had tested the fortress's defenses, learned its rhythms, and survived against overwhelming odds. Yet he also knew the mission had only begun. The outer defenses were just the start. Deeper challenges awaited, and the humans had to be ready for anything. "Report status," Aaron ordered. "All ships accounted for," Mira replied. "Minor damage to 3 scout ships, but they are operational. Enemy systems partially disabled in the sectors we passed." "We have the advantage," Aaron nodded. "Good. This is what humans do. We survive where others fail. We learn what others cannot. And we move forward no matter the odds." The fleet paused briefly to regroup, hidden in the shadows of the fortress. Commander Aaron looked out at the massive alien structure, his mind racing with plans. The first encounter had proven one thing: humans could reach places no one else could, and humans could fight in ways no other species could imagine. But the fortress was far from defeated. Its internal systems were vast, complex, and dangerous. The humans would need every bit of their courage, creativity, and skill to continue. As the fleet prepared for the next stage of their daring mission, Aaron's voice echoed across the Resolute. "We are not just attacking a fortress. We are showing the galaxy what humans can do. They may have thought no one could reach them. They were wrong. And we are just getting started." The stars around the fortress twinkled coldly, unaware that a species they underestimated was already moving inside, changing the rules of the game. And in that moment, humanity proved once more. When faced with impossible odds, humans adapted. Humans survived. Humans thrived. Humans reached the unreachable. Weeks passed since the humans had quietly withdrawn from galactic networks. At first, the absence went almost unnoticed. Alien species assumed it was a temporary glitch, a minor technical failure that would soon resolve itself. Communication delays, missing supplies, and slower trade routes were attributed to simple mismanagement. But as days turned into weeks, the disruptions grew. Strategic communication channels went silent. Critical supply ships were delayed or lost, and research data from distant colonies failed to arrive. Panic quietly began to ripple through the galaxy. On a distant ice world, a council session convened urgently. The icy chamber glowed with soft bioluminescent light from the walls, reflecting off the many eyes, scales, and limbs of the attending delegates. "Why has no human fleet responded?" demanded Tyler, a large insectoid delegate whose wings fluttered nervously. "They were always present, always helping. How can this happen without explanation?" Krath, the reptilian delegate, spoke calmly. "They chose not to respond. Humans have withdrawn voluntarily, and now we are seeing the consequences of underestimating them." Tyler's mandibles clicked in disbelief. "Withdraw? How can a single species, so small, so fragile, affect the galaxy like this?" Krath leaned forward. "Because humans do more than exist. They think, they adapt, they coordinate. They do not rely on size, strength, or lifespan. They rely on their minds and their will. That is what you failed to notice." Meanwhile, on Earth, the human leaders observed the galaxy's growing confusion with quiet satisfaction. They did not act aggressively. There were no fleets sent, no planets conquered, no battles fought. Humanity's strategy was simple but powerful: absence. By stepping back, humans allowed the galaxy to feel the weight of their contribution. Lena Miro, sitting in a command room filled with holographic star charts, addressed her leadership team. "Notice the ripple effect," she said, pointing to clusters of systems where communication had stopped and trade had faltered. "This is exactly what we hoped. The galaxy begins to realize we were never just another species." Elias, standing beside her, shook his head slightly. "Do you think they will understand before it becomes too dangerous? Some colonies may suffer." Lena's expression was firm but calm. "They will. and humans will be ready to help when the time comes. But first, they must see the truth for themselves. Across the galaxy, systems dependent on human engineering began to strain. Energy distribution networks faltered. Planetary defenses weakened and emergency response systems failed at critical moments. On one trade hub, ships carrying supplies for dozens of colonies were stranded in orbit because navigation grids maintained by humans no longer functioned. Panic spread as word of these failures reached the Council. Delegates shouted, argued, and blamed one another for the chaos. No one could understand how a species once considered insignificant could hold so much of the galaxy's stability in their hands. Elora, the Council leader, raised a translucent arm to silence the chamber. "Enough," she said. Her many eyes glinted with frustration. "We must investigate. Humans are gone from our systems. Every network, every supply chain, every critical function they once touched is now failing. This is not coincidence. This is intentional." Back on Earth, humans continued their own work. Exploration missions mapped uncharted star systems. Scientific teams developed advanced technologies quietly, away from the galaxy's attention. Yet, despite their advanced capabilities, humans did not flaunt their power. On the bridge of the Odyssey, Lena spoke to her crew. "Our absence is a message. We are not abandoning the galaxy, but we will not serve it blindly. Let the Council and all others see the consequences of underestimating humanity." One crew member, a young engineer named Mara, asked, "Do you think they will understand quickly enough?" Lena smiled faintly. "Understanding takes time. What matters is that they begin to see. That is the first step toward respect." The Galactic Council dispatched teams to identify the cause of the disruptions. Engineers, scholars, and military analysts combed through every failing system. Reports arrived from across multiple sectors: research stations unable to process data, planetary defense grids offline, and colonies cut off from essential supplies. Delegates began to realize the depth of human involvement. They had assumed humans were simple explorers, useful in small crises but inconsequential overall. Yet humans had quietly woven themselves into the galaxy's fabric, connecting systems, facilitating trade, and providing solutions no one else could match. Krath watched the chaos with quiet satisfaction. "Do you see now?" he asked a neighboring delegate. "The galaxy cannot function without humans, and you thought they were fragile and insignificant." Amid the confusion, small alien groups attempted to replicate human ingenuity. Engineers tried to mimic human technology. Diplomats attempted to adopt human negotiation styles. But every effort fell short. Humans had combined intelligence, creativity, and adaptability in ways alien species could not easily imitate. One alien scientist admitted to her peers, "It is not technology alone. It is their approach to problem solving, their patience, their observation, their ability to act under pressure." "We cannot match it," Krath nodded. "Exactly. That is what the Council failed to see. Humans are not merely participants in the galaxy. They are stabilizers, innovators, and connectors." On Earth, Lena received a message from an unexpected source, an alien ambassador, discreetly asking for human assistance. They did not demand help, nor did they speak with authority. Their message was simple. Guidance was requested. Lena studied the message carefully. "This is the first acknowledgement of our value," she said. "They are beginning to realize they cannot manage without us. But they still do not understand the depth of our contribution." Elias frowned. "Do we respond?" "Yes," Lena replied. "But carefully. Not with force. Not with dominance. We will show them that humans are partners, not servants. They must learn to respect what they once ignored." Meanwhile, alien media began broadcasting reports of failures and confusion. Citizens on dozens of planets began questioning the Council's decisions. How could a species so small and seemingly weak control so much of the galaxy's infrastructure? Debates erupted in public forums, on trade stations, and in research colonies. Opinions varied, but one sentiment became clear. The galaxy had misjudged humans. The species once considered insignificant was now recognized as indispensable, and the Council's previous arrogance was now under scrutiny. Elora convened another emergency session. "The humans have withdrawn entirely. Every system touched by them is struggling. We have underestimated them, and now we face the consequences. We must find a solution, and quickly." Krath leaned back, feeling vindicated. "It is too late for excuses," he said. The galaxy must learn the truth. Humans are not to be dismissed. They are the very heart of progress and stability. Back on Earth, humans continued to advance quietly. Scientists discovered new energy sources. Engineers designed advanced transport systems. Explorers mapped regions of space that no alien had dared to visit. And through it all, humanity remained humble. They did not flaunt power. They did not seek dominance. They simply prepared. Lena addressed her team one evening, looking out at the stars beyond their orbit. "Our absence is teaching a lesson," she said. "The galaxy sees now that humans are more than they realized. And when they finally understand, they will do so not through fear, but through respect." Elias nodded. "And we will be ready to help when it is needed?" "Yes," Lena said, "but only on our terms. We have given them a taste of the impact humans have. The next step will be theirs to take, and they must act wisely." As the Galactic Council scrambled and alien species floundered, humans remained calm. They observed, they prepared, and they learned. The quiet strength of humanity, its creativity, adaptability, and unity, had always been hidden behind a modest exterior. Now, the galaxy was beginning to realize the consequences of underestimating a species that never sought dominance, but always sought excellence. Humans had not started a war. They had not demanded submission. They had simply stepped back. And in doing so, they had begun to teach the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. The galaxy was no longer ignoring humans. Weeks of disrupted communications, failed trade networks, and faltering planetary defenses had created a storm of panic. Across countless star systems, aliens scrambled to understand what was happening, and why a species they had dismissed as fragile and insignificant could hold such sway over the galaxy's operations. In the sprawling chambers of the Galactic Council, chaos reigned. Delegates shouted over one another, each blaming different species for the failures. Supplies for entire colonies had been delayed. Defense fleets could not be coordinated, and research stations were offline. The situation was worse than anyone had imagined. Yolora, the council leader, raised her arms to quiet the room. "Order!" she demanded. "Humans have withdrawn from all networks. That is no longer in doubt. Our previous dismissals of them were a mistake. Every system they touched is now in crisis." Krath, the reptilian delegate, did not speak loudly. He simply leaned forward, watching the panic with satisfaction. "Finally," he said softly. "Finally, the galaxy sees what I warned them about." But even as the council began to recognize the scale of the problem, no one yet understood humans fully. Delegates assumed that humans' disappearance was a temporary lapse or perhaps a minor rebellion. No one realized that this silence was deliberate, a quiet, controlled demonstration of humanity's true power. On Earth, Lena Miro stood on the observation deck of the Odyssey. Her crew worked efficiently, monitoring communications across the galaxy. Humans had not intervened directly, yet reports of alien failures arrived continuously. Elias approached her. "It is remarkable," he said. "Systems we take for granted are collapsing without us, and they are still trying to solve it themselves." Lena nodded. "They will try and they will struggle. But that struggle is teaching them a lesson. Humans are more than a species. We are problem solvers, innovators, and connectors. And now they are beginning to understand that the galaxy cannot function without us." Far from Earth, a research colony on the planet Tarsus faced a crisis. The energy distribution grid, once maintained by human engineers, failed completely. Scientists scrambled to reroute power, but their systems were incompatible. Vital experiments were halted, life support systems faltered, and panic spread among the colony's inhabitants. A young alien engineer named Sarek cried out in frustration. "Why is this happening? We have all the knowledge, all the technology. Why can't we fix it?" His mentor, an older alien with translucent skin and multiple eyes, shook his head. "Because humans always connected systems in ways that only their minds could understand. Technology alone cannot replicate their reasoning, their creativity, their ability to anticipate failures before they occur." Sarek's eyes widened in realization. "We dismissed them. We underestimated them. And now we suffer." In another part of the galaxy, military fleets struggled to coordinate. Defense systems were failing, supply ships were stranded, and critical communications were delayed or lost entirely. Officers ran from station to station attempting to restore order, but every effort fell short. "Where are the humans?" shouted a commander on a communication channel. They were always there, always coordinating. And now nothing! Krath, watching reports from his chamber, could only shake his scaled head. Do you see it now? He whispered to himself. The galaxy cannot manage without humans, and yet they still refuse to recognize it fully. Back on Earth, humans observed the growing chaos. They did not gloat. They did not interfere. Humanity's goal was not dominance but awareness. The galaxy had long dismissed humans, seeing only physical strength, longevity, and technological arrogance. They had ignored human ingenuity, empathy, and the ability to adapt. Lena addressed her team. Look at them, she said, pointing to a holographic map of disrupted systems. Every failure, every delay, every miscommunication, it is proof of our impact. And still they do not understand fully. They see the effects, but they do not yet grasp the cause. Mara, the young engineer, frowned. Do you think they will ever understand? They will, Lena replied. It just takes time. They must realize that humans are not just another species in the galaxy. We are partners, innovators, and connectors. And now they are beginning to see the truth for themselves. In the Galactic Council chambers, debates raged. Delegates attempted to patch failing networks, redirect supplies, and repair broken communications. But every solution they tried failed, because none of them understood the full scope of human influence. One delegate, a bird-like species with iridescent feathers, spoke up. It is not just technology. Humans think differently. They anticipate problems we cannot see. They innovate solutions we could never imagine. We have been blind, Krath smiled. Exactly. Humans' greatest strength is their mind and their unity. We judge them by appearances and age, by physical abilities and lifespans, but their true power is subtle, quiet, and persistent, and now it is undeniable. Meanwhile, humans continued their work on Earth and in orbit. Exploration missions mapped new star systems. Scientists developed technologies to improve life on countless worlds. Engineers designed transport systems that could someday benefit entire civilizations. And yet humanity remained humble. Lena spoke to her crew one evening. Our silence is teaching a lesson. The galaxy is learning that humans are not just participants, they are essential. They cannot function without us, yet they do not yet realize why. This understanding will come eventually, and when it does, it will be lasting. Elias nodded. And when they finally understand, what will happen? They will respect us, Lena said simply. Not out of fear, but because they recognize our value. That is the difference between humans and every other species. We do not need to dominate. We simply need to be understood. Across the galaxy, alien species tried desperately to maintain control. Trade networks were rerouted, fleets attempted to compensate for failing coordination, and research teams worked overtime to replicate human problem-solving. But every effort fell short. Even the most advanced alien scientists admitted defeat. We can imitate their technology, one said, but we cannot imitate their approach, their patience, their ability to act quickly under pressure without panic. Humans are something else entirely. Krath, observing from his private chamber, nodded. This is why they were underestimated. Humans are not defined by size or lifespan, by strength or speed. They are defined by will, by mind, and by unity. And now the galaxy is learning, the hard way, what we always knew. On Earth, Lena continued to observe. She saw the panic, the confusion, and the struggle across the galaxy, yet humanity did not intervene directly. Their absence was enough to demonstrate their value. She turned to her team. We will act only when needed and only on our terms. The galaxy is beginning to learn humility. They are realizing that underestimating humans was their mistake. And when the time comes, we will be ready to guide them, not as rulers but as partners. Mara, still young and eager, asked, Do you think they will ever fully appreciate us? Lena smiled. They will. Every crisis they face without us teaches them something new. Respect is earned through understanding, and they are finally beginning to understand. Meanwhile, reports continued to pour in. Supply chains collapsed, planetary defenses faltered, and research stations remained offline. Alien leaders began questioning every past assumption about humans. How could a species so small, so short-lived, and so seemingly fragile hold such influence? Elora addressed the council once again. We have been blind. Humans are not weak. They are not insignificant. Every system they touched relied on their innovation, their creativity, their ability to coordinate under pressure. We have underestimated them, and we are paying the price. Krath, calm and composed, simply nodded, and now they see the truth. Humans have never been ordinary, and the galaxy will never forget it. Back on Earth, humans continued to prepare quietly. Exploration missions expanded humanity's reach. Scientists developed technologies for communication, transport, and energy that could someday benefit all civilizations. And through it all, humanity remained humble. They did not seek recognition. They did not demand obedience. They simply acted with purpose. Lena stood on the Odyssey's observation deck, gazing at the stars. "The galaxy is beginning to feel our absence," she said softly. "But they still do not understand the full depth of human capability. That understanding will come, and when it does, it will change everything." Elias looked at her, admiration in his eyes. "They will never forget us again." "No," Lena said, her voice firm. "They will not. And that is the lesson they must learn. Humans are more than they appear. Stronger, wiser, and more united than anyone ever imagined. And we never act out of fear. We act out of purpose. And that is why humanity endures." The galaxy, struggling to adapt without humans, began to realize the weight of its mistake. Systems once thought simple now proved complex beyond comprehension. Trade, communication, and defense all depended on the quiet ingenuity of a species they had dismissed for too long. And humanity watched, patient and poised, ready for the day the galaxy would finally understand. The galaxy was no longer in mere panic, it was in crisis. Weeks of disrupted networks, failing supply lines, and faltering defense systems had shown alien species that humans were not just another race. They were essential. Even the most arrogant council members began to realize that dismissing humans had been a mistake. Yalora convened an emergency session of the Galactic Council. The chambers, usually grand and orderly, were tense and chaotic. Delegates argued over every failing system. Plans were made and discarded in rapid succession, each solution revealing yet another flaw in their understanding. "They are gone," Yalora said firmly, "completely absent. Every system we depended upon them for is in crisis. We must act, and we must act carefully. Humans are not simply missing. They are teaching us a lesson." Krath, the reptilian delegate, nodded. "Yes, and they are patient. Observe, they allow us to stumble but never intervene directly. Their silence is a lesson in restraint and understanding. We have underestimated them for too long." Across the galaxy, small alien delegations sent exploratory messages to Earth. They did not demand assistance. They did not order humans to return. Instead, their messages were cautious, respectful, and curious. They sought guidance, subtle understanding, and most importantly, recognition of humans' quiet influence. On Earth, Lena Miro received the first of these communications. The holographic message displayed the symbols and tones of a distant council species. It was formal but understated, expressing concern for the failing networks and a request for insight. "This is the first acknowledgement of our value," Lena said to her leadership team. She studied the message carefully. "Notice the tone. They are not commanding. They are asking. They are beginning to understand." Elias, her second in command, frowned. "Do we respond? If we do, they may try to exploit our knowledge." Lena shook her head. "We respond carefully, selectively. Not to give power, but to teach. Humans do not dominate, we guide. And the galaxy must learn humility before it can collaborate with us fully." The humans worked quietly to craft a response. Their message was simple: guidance, not interference. Assistance, not control. They outlined solutions to some of the failing systems without exposing their full capabilities. The first effect was immediate. Alien scientists applied human guidance to restore energy grids, communication networks, and supply chains. Slowly, planets began to stabilize. Panic subsided in some regions, though the galaxy still struggled to fully regain its footing. In council chambers, the mood shifted. Where there had been chaos, now there was curiosity. Where there had been arrogance, now there was caution. Tyler, the insectoid delegate, spoke in a voice of surprise. "The humans, they are teaching us, not controlling us. Their methods are subtle yet effective. How have we failed to see this for so long?" Krath's eyes gleamed. "Because you judged by appearances. You looked at size, strength, and age. But humans' true power lies in their mind, their unity and their ingenuity, and now the galaxy is beginning to see it for itself." On Earth, humans continued their quiet work. Exploration missions discovered new star systems, scientists developed advanced energy technologies, and engineers designed interstellar transport systems. Humans were preparing not for war but for partnership. Lena gathered her leadership team. "The galaxy is finally paying attention," she said. "They are beginning to understand the value of cooperation, creativity, and resilience. They are learning the lesson we intended. Humans are indispensable. But they must also understand that respect cannot be demanded. It is earned." Mara, the young engineer, asked, "Do you think they will fully grasp it?" "They will," Lena said. "It takes time. But they are learning. Every decision they make now reflects what they have learned from our absence. And that knowledge will last far longer than any single intervention could." In multiple sectors, alien species began to study humans more closely. Scholars analyzed their strategies. Diplomats examined their methods of negotiation, and engineers attempted to replicate their innovations. But every attempt revealed a deeper truth. Humans were not just clever. Humans were adaptable, creative, and persistent in ways no species had anticipated. One alien scholar admitted to her peers, "It is not just intelligence. It is their ability to anticipate, to plan, and to unite under pressure. We can imitate their technology, but we cannot imitate their mindset." Krath nodded approvingly. "Exactly. Human strength is subtle and enduring. They do not dominate, yet the galaxy cannot function without them. That is what the Council failed to see for centuries." In orbit above Earth, the Odyssey watched messages arrive from all corners of the galaxy. Alien fleets, once haphazard and disorganized, now sought human advice. Colonies that had suffered shortages began receiving careful guidance. Communication networks slowly came online again. Lena addressed her crew. "See the change? They are beginning to understand, but they are not yet fully aware of the depth of human capability. That will come, and when it does, they will act differently. Not out of fear, but out of respect." Elias observed the maps of star systems below. Their dependence is clear now, and yet they are learning to ask, not demand. "Exactly," Lena said. "That is the difference. Humans never force. Humans guide, and that is why we endure, and why the galaxy will finally learn the value of our presence." Meanwhile, in the Galactic Council, delegates debated the humans' messages. Some were still skeptical, unwilling to admit past errors. Others began to realize that their arrogance had caused unnecessary suffering. Systems that had failed due to humans' absence could now be restored, but only because humans chose to provide guidance. Elora spoke with measured authority. "Humans have shown restraint, intelligence, and patience. They have not intervened to dominate, yet they have ensured that we have no choice but to recognize their importance. We must learn from them, not just restore what was lost." Krath added, "And perhaps we must finally respect the species we have so long underestimated. Their wisdom is not in size or force, but in thought, unity, and persistence, and that is a lesson the galaxy cannot ignore." On Earth, humanity continued to expand its knowledge. Exploration missions mapped uncharted regions. Scientists developed advanced energy systems and transport technologies. Engineers designed new methods for interstellar communication. And yet, despite all this, humans remained humble. Lena addressed her team in the command center of the Odyssey. "Our guidance is selective. We will restore what is essential, but we will not dominate. The galaxy must learn respect through understanding, not fear. That is the way of humanity." Mara, inspired, asked, "Do you think they will change their ways?" "They will," Lena replied. "Once they understand our value, once they realize that humans can offer solutions without demanding control, they will approach us differently. And that will be a turning point for the galaxy." In the outer systems, alien species began to implement human guidance. Energy grids were repaired, trade networks reopened, and communication channels stabilized. Colonies that had faced starvation and equipment failures now received support based on human advice. For the first time, alien citizens saw humans not as weak, reckless beings, but as stabilizers, innovators, and problem solvers. Discussions in forums and public councils reflected this new understanding. Respect began to replace arrogance. One alien official admitted quietly, "We have been blind for too long. Humans are not fragile. They are not simple. They are indispensable, and we must work with them, not against them." Krath smiled as he observed the change. "Finally," he whispered. "The galaxy sees the truth. Humanity is not to be underestimated, and this understanding will last, because it is earned, not imposed." On Earth, Lena watched as messages of gratitude and requests for guidance arrived from all corners of the galaxy. Humanity's quiet patience had paid off. The galaxy was beginning to recognize humans not as a minor species, but as a central force in interstellar cooperation and innovation. Lena addressed her leadership team one last time that evening. "They are learning," she said. "They are beginning to see what we have always known. Humans are not just survivors. We are creators, innovators, and protectors, and the galaxy will never ignore us again." Elias looked out at the stars. "And we did this without force, without dominance, just by being ourselves." "Exactly," Lena said. "That is humanity's greatest strength. Not power, but purpose. Not control, but guidance. And the galaxy will remember that lesson forever." Across the galaxy, the shift was complete. Alien species now saw humans with a mixture of awe and respect. They realized that humans' absence had been more than a challenge, it had been a revelation. Humans had shown patience, intelligence, and unity, and the galaxy had begun to change as a result. For the first time, humans were no longer underestimated. They were no longer ignored. They had proven, through quiet strength and deliberate restraint, that their value was immeasurable. And humanity continued to watch, ready for the next step, prepared to guide the galaxy not through fear, but through understanding, collaboration, and respect. The lesson had begun, and it would resonate throughout the stars for generations to come.